Welcome on into the Wolverine.com podcast. Clayton Safey alongside Chris Ballas. Anthony Broom out. I'm back after a couple shows off. A little bit of a rotating cast over the last
Welcome back, Clay.
week or so. Thank you. Back in time for a big sports day in Detroit. Game 6 of Pistons-Knicks. I'm sure there are actually a lot of Knicks fans watching as well, so we'll try
Knicks suck. Jalen Brunson's a mother flopper. Did you see that billboard on the side of 75?
I did. So will he see that? I'm not as good at the east side of the state geography as you. Will he see that on the way in from the airport?
Probably not.
Okay.
Hopefully they've got a few of them and they
Yeah.
light it up as the bus is going by or whatever. But he needs to know how bad it really is. It's an embarrassment. Jalen Brunson flopping around like a fish in a boat. Just terrible.
And
So,
Jalen Duren let him know of it.
he
said,
did. Wasn't that beautiful? Yeah.
But the thing is, when you watch Jalen Brunson play, it's the same exact thing as he was doing at Villanova when they played Michigan in the championship game. That game, I was more mad about all the stuff he got away with fouling, actually.
Yeah,
offensive
me too.
Fouls and things like that. But he's the same guy. It's actually gotten a little worse.
Yep, it has, and there's no place in the game for that garbage. So, come on, man up, Brunson. But let's get this one tonight. Get back to Game 7 in the Garden. Break their hearts there. I guarantee you, the officials will do everything they can. This is my humble opinion to not let the Pistons win in the Garden. But hey, they've done it, and they've done it twice now. So why not 3?
So I was down in Arizona, and my notes from just the observations. You don't have to work, so my notes are: Tim Hardaway was fouled.
Yes.
Jalen Brunson's a flopper. I mean, that was ridiculous to keep it Michigan. Tim Hardaway Jr. easily fouled at the end of Game 4. So that was disappointing. I was talking to Trey McKenney this morning. He'll be featured in our issue of the Wolverine. Had a nice 20-minute conversation, and
special kid.
He was awesome. Yeah, he was great.
Yeah. Same with Winters Grady. I talked to Winters Grady. These guys are going to be great fits. They're going to help immediately. Didn't mean to interrupt you there, but both of these guys, man, just fantastic. And Oscar Goodman. I think all 3. I think Oscar Goodman, depending on what happens with Yaxel Lendeborg, there might be a bigger role for him.
He's got a lot to gain from or lose from what Yaxel does, but that's short term. He feels like a long term guy to me, which is really nice to hear. I do love this class, to your point. But I was talking to Trey McKenney, and he grew up a Michigan fan. He's from Flint. He's the first Michigan player from Flint since Glenn Rice, or he will be as soon as he steps on the floor in November. And he was saying that during the 2013 Michigan-Kansas game in the Sweet 16 where Trey Burke hits the shot, they were showing it, and he was at the Pistons game on his dad's shoulders watching, and he remembers that moment. And I asked him, Are we going to be going back to the Garden? And he said that he predicts a Game 6 victory for the Detroit Pistons. So you heard it there first. Trey McKenney predicting a victory for the Pistons. But I guess that's enough Pistons talk. Hopefully we'll have maybe some.
Hopefully we didn't lose you and the Knicks fans, the fans of that sorry franchise.
And we love the Knicks fans that are also Michigan fans that are viewers.
Not this week we don't, but we'll love you when we come back. There you go.
All right. Sure. Like this.
Better move on before we lose some subscribers. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Like this video if you want Michigan to beat Ohio State this fall. I think we can all be unified on that. We got to get to 250 likes on this video. Subscribe to our channel as well. We got continuing to grow that subscriber count. And we're going to get into quite a bit today. Spring ball superlatives coming out of spring practices, not just a spring game, but kind of everything in those 15 practices that we heard about. We're going to talk about Bryce Underwood, of course, on the cover of the 2025 Michigan Football Preview magazine that we are putting out this summer, and a couple other things, including Michigan basketball with the schedule reveal or the opponent breakdown reveal. But let's start with spring practice and just some easy categories, although some of them are tough calls. But Chris, I will start with you. Who is your MVP of the Michigan's 15 spring practices? Who would you say that is?
Oh, wow. Based on what we've heard, not just the spring game, but spring practices.
Just the game. But I think we can weigh the game a little higher just because.
Yeah.
But then
you
again,
can accept that most of the starters barely played.
Exactly,
so I'm going to go with Derek Morris, the guy that everybody talked about, right? And to me, I think he'd be the guy. Although it was very interesting to hear Wink Martindale talk about how they're going to use the linebackers more this year, and that's really the strength of the team. But I do think they understand that pass rush is going to be paramount to whatever they they do. And Derek Moore's been the guy. To me, he comes out of that as number one. I didn't see all the award winners when they were doing that on the field. That was all spring award stuff, right? So, and I
Don't
think,
know. That was the 2024 season.
oh, was it really? I didn't
Yes,
realize
because
that.
they didn't have a
Okay.
banquet. They didn't have like a bust this past year for whatever
Okay.
reason. I'm not
That's
sure why.
right. So wait a minute. So Gio El Hadi beat out Miles Hinton for top
And
lineman
Preet,
last year?
yeah,
That's interesting.
and Josh
Okay.
Preet, yeah.
Yikes. With all due respect. But I think Derek Moore, for me, is that guy. And, we've heard great things about a lot of this young safeties and everything else. But as veterans go and as MVPs go, he'd be my guy on defense. And then on offense, probably, man, is it Jordan Marshall? It's hard to say, right? Because when you're doing thud for the most part in practices and stuff like that, it's really hard to understand and appreciate what the running backs are doing in the spring. So, but to me, it's Derek Moore.
I would have to agree. I think that he's your closest thing to being or has the potential to be a dominant pass rusher, and you need that, especially with what you lost on the defensive line this past season. He's a leader up there. Thought about, like a lot of guys have talked about just the way Ernest Hausman stepped up as a leader, and he's going to be the guy getting the calls and everything, and the coaches talked about him as well, kind of taking that next step. But then you think about, okay, they are pretty deep at linebacker, so the value there, it's an imperfect calculation. I think you could make an argument for Bryce Underwood.
I know. I was thinking that too.
The lack of depth at quarterback and the way that he kind of just he could take this offense to the next level, and the next level from last year. That's not a huge jump, but I think maybe a level or two that he could take this offense to from a year ago, and you need that from that position.
And there were people talking to us from inside the building that said he was probably the surprise of camp. And kids were saying it publicly too. Like, wow, we knew he was good. We didn't know he was this good. One said he's the best freshman quarterback that we've ever had here, somebody who's been around for 30 years, which is saying something when you've had guys like Jed Henney and you've had guys like Drew Henson. And obviously, Tate Forcier. You want to count Tate Forcier, who actually had a pretty good freshman, couple good freshman games, right? Remember when he's on the cover of Sports Illustrated? Yeah. After the Notre Dame game, that was pretty funny.
I think I have that cover somewhere.
Yeah, but I'm sure you do. Yeah. But I thought that spoke volumes. And watching him in the spring game, you can't just go by the numbers. I thought he had a great command of the offense and knows where to go with the ball. Didn't put the ball in harm's way much. He had the one miscommunication on the interception, but he's going to be really, really good as long as they get the protection for him up front that they need. So, and of course, that's the big question, and the one that will probably beat to death here before fall, if we haven't already. Yeah,
I know. It's like, all right, well, nothing's going to happen until fall camp, so what we got is what we got. I guess some potential additions, but best freshman Bryce Underwood. I think we can move on from that.
Without question.
But best non-Bryce Underwood freshman. Who do you think?
Best Bryce Underwood freshman in fall camp or in spring ball?
Spring ball, so just the early enrollees. Yep.
Yeah, probably Shamari Earls, I would imagine, from what we've heard, and he got away with the pass interference in that spring game, Clay, on spring game great Peyton O'Leary. I think he's going to go into the Hall of Fame. They should have a Hall of Fame for spring game guys who never really pan out. And Peyton, that's not to take anything away from him. The catch that he had in the Ohio State game last year, pretty legendary, right? Oh yeah, exactly. And so he'd be up there with Ben Hall and Elaine Kashima and Grady Brooks for the old timers. You guys will remember those guys. And so it's to me, he's the guy. I'm trying to think on offense, maybe Jamar Browder at receiver, right?
You got talked about a lot.
Yeah, he did. So I think one of those guys on each side of the ball for me.
Yeah, I would go with Shamari Earls as well. I think when you have a guy like Ron Bellamy, who's always kind of talked about the whole team, and he was a defensive coach, so he's comfortable talking about that side of the ball. But he kind of went out of his way to mention Shamari Earls, and I think that spoke volumes. And then we saw him in the spring game. One thing you can notice about freshmen, like they're not going to make every play in a spring game like that, or be in the right spot every time. And you're running a lot of simple stuff as well, but just the way they move around. I mean, you can tell he's a little bit different of an athlete, I think, than a lot of freshmen. So he stood out to me. Yeah, I think on offense, probably Jamar Browder at wide receiver, or Andrew Babalola at offensive line as well. You hear good things. Like all the offensive linemen that talked said, you can tell he's going to be good. Like you can tell he's going to be really good. Obviously, he's got to get bigger. he's got to learn some things, get the technique refined, all those sorts of things. But a little bit of a jump start on some other guys that'll come in the summer. So some good progress from Babalola, who
He's
Sherrone
strong.
said that he's going to compete for the left tackle job this
And he's
fall.
strong. He was pushing people in the run game when I went back
Yeah.
and watched the film, and it's the footwork and the pass sets, right? That and as any true freshman's going to have an issue with that. So he'll get better, and he will be a guy. Wouldn't stun me at all if he was starting by mid-season. There, I'm worried, a little bit nervous about Evan Linkett left tackle. I think they are too, and I think they're still looking there. So, but if Babalola, it's going to be a big summer for all these guys working on their footwork, and really getting down the fundamentals and the technique that you need to play at this level. But to me, Babalola has the most upside.
If Andrew Sprague, he was a top 150 type of recruit, really highly rated. And last year you kept hearing about him. Sherrone Moore loved him. And by the end of the year, right, they needed it because of opt-outs, but he started in the Alabama game and held his own. I mean, if Babalola's that much better as a 5-star recruit, somebody who got here in the spring, had a good spring, is already said to have, be a contender for one of those jobs, like that could come quicker, to your point, like maybe mid-season or something like that if they need
Right.
it. Would love to have him for depth and redshirt him, right? I think
Yep.
that would be ideal, but you never know. The best transfer that came in, maybe let's start with offense.
It's going to be obviously Justice Haynes to me. I think he is going to get a lot of carries there next to Jordan Marshall. I really like him. I like what I saw of his speed when he bounced outside, right?
Yeah.
And just his vision. And again, it's just a spring game, and I understand that. But from what we heard about him, this kid, he's jacked, right? He is taking his diet seriously. This guy, look at his arms, man. If you could see the picture, for those listening, you can't see it. It kind of,
If you're listening, get to the YouTube version.
absolutely, get to YouTube and check this out. This kid's an absolute stud. So I think he's the guy. And then on defense, give me a minute on that one. Probably Trey Williams, from what I heard, is kind of Kenneth Grant light, right? And he's been wrecking some people on the inside. I don't know if that's good or bad when we were talking about the offensive line, right, and the interior line, and but I think that he's that guy that's going to have a breakout season. He was good at times at Clemson, and he had a share of games, but they're going to need him to be really good here, and I think he can be.
I had two on offense. One of them was Haynes, but I'll pick Donovan McCulley as another one, just because they need somebody to step up as that lead dog at wide receiver. And by all accounts, it has happened, and it's Donovan McCulley. Now, is it in relation to the rest of the wide receiver room? Probably a little bit of that, but this is someone who's old. He's a fifth-year senior. He has some experience. He's shown some flashes at Indiana, has that extra year because he redshirted last season, left the team at Indiana, but just comes here in a fresh environment. I think that could do wonders for him. And again, they need someone like that to step up as somebody who can be relied upon downfield. Didn't see a lot of him in the spring game, but because he is going to be a starter. But we did see him go up and get that ball on the free play. He was playing on Jaden Davis's team. Would have loved to see that connection with Bryce Underwood, but we'll see it in time. But him and Justice Haynes for sure. And then I also have Trey Williams on defense. I think he was, you ask about the two transfers, Damon Payne and Trey Williams, and like Trey Williams would just be talked about a little bit differently in that way. Probably your starter at nose guard right now, and then Rayshon Benny starting at the defensive tackle spot. I think that's a pretty good duo, also considering they have a lot of depth behind those two. But be interesting. TJ Metcalf could be a starter on the back end, whether it's at nickel or wherever. So some impact guys, I think, out of that transfer class that came in early.
Yep.
Who would you say is your most improved player or guy you think is trending in that direction? Of course, we'll find out for sure this fall. But
yeah, that's a great question. I was hoping to hear more about Fred Moore, right, as the number 2 receiver behind McCulley. If McCulley is indeed number 1, I think he will be, right? So, and I probably should have mentioned him as well. He's the most important transfer on offense. There's no question about it, because they need that number 1 receiver. So, in terms of most improved, I've heard such good things about Mason Curtis in the defensive backfield, right? That this is a guy that can play. Somebody even told me he could play nickel at that size, which is unbelievable, right? For a big kid like that to be able to move his hips like that and flip his hips and defend. So they like him a ton. So I'm going to go with him, I think, and maybe Dominic Nichols as the backup there, the sophomore to be, who had a really nice spring in terms of pass rushing. And then offensively, the most improved, maybe a Gio Hadi, and I hope it is, because he needs to be better, flat out. They can say whatever they want to about the line last year, and it wasn't good enough anywhere. I thought Miles Hinton maybe exceeded expectations a little at left tackle at times, but other than that, it was very, very underwhelming. So to me, that we've heard good things about him. He has said all the right things, Clay, in terms of we're hungry and we need to be nastier and I need to be better. So hopefully he can walk the walk too.
I had him down on offense in
Hmm.
part because of the move from right guard to left guard, a little more
I agree.
comfortable where he played and really practiced almost exclusively over his first 3 years
Yeah.
on campus. Then makes the move, unselfishly, right? They bring in Josh Preeb, who had more game experience than him coming from Northwestern. Okay, I'll move over to the right side. It was funny. Someone asked him that, why'd you move to right guard then if you're more comfortable? He said, we brought in Preeb. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
every decision is the ideal. You got to be able to adapt. And, I'm
Yep.
sure he did his best last year, but maybe a little more comfortable there. And then I think your picks on defense were great. I have two different ones. Cole Sullivan as one
Hmm.
who, he was so good last year. They had to burn his red shirt, play him on special teams. He had the second most special team snaps on the team, but it was just kind of back there on defense on the depth chart, probably twos or threes. Now, Brian Jean Mary was talking about how they would feel as comfortable with him in there as anybody, and that they love the depth at the linebacker room in part because of him. And then Brandon Hillman is just a guy that I feel like has earned more trust as well in the back end. Probably a guy that was just waiting his turn too. But I mean, something about those big hits can change a game,
Hmm.
and he brings that as long as he does it without targeting and he can keep himself on the field. But
Yeah, Marcus Ray type, right? Where you make your impact, and it's almost you don't. It's the cliche, right? You don't want to go over the middle on these guys, but you don't.
right.
And he's looking to physically hurt you, and that's okay between the white lines out there, right? As long as you're not playing dirty, that's part of this game. So to me, I agree with you. I love the kid. I love his mindset when it comes to the game, and I think he's going to be a good one.
I guess he's got a 3-year-old daughter that he's
It's awesome.
says motivates him and everything. So yeah, it could be a big year for Brandon Hillman. The safety room is pretty loaded, especially when Rod
It
Moore
is.
gets fully healthy.
Got to get him back though, Clay. I mean, he is the
Yeah.
quarterback of that defense. He's going to make those corners better. He's going to be that old guy out there on the field that everybody respects, and he puts them in the right place. And if they aren't living up to expectations, he's going to tell them about it. So, Rod Moore, to me, his return is critical, and they expect to get him back and healthier than ever this summer.
And on top of all that, he's gonna make plays. Like
Oh,
that,
100%.
yeah, like
His
it's
instincts for the safety position, Clay, are
yeah.
among the best that I've ever seen at Michigan, and that's saying something, right? And you look at Mike Sainer still out there when he was playing. They are very similar in their football instincts in the secondary out there. So I just man, I'm grateful that we get one more year with him.
Me too. In that he gets to kind of span a couple eras and help,
Hmm.
maybe continue to lay that foundation for Sherrone Moore. You couldn't ask for a better guy on your defense like that. Year two of Wink Martindale and what he's going to bring this year. Redshirt freshman ready to impact. I've got two of them: Andrew Sprague on offense and Dominic Nichols on defense. You mentioned him as
Yep.
potentially most improved. I mean, I think
Yeah.
those are probably two more obvious ones. I think some other guys will step up. Sometimes you forget about the guys who redshirted, or like a Jeremiah Lowe. I mean, we'll see what his role is. Probably not huge this year, but has 2 picks in the spring game. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
you forget some of these guys are coming along, but I think those
Right.
two, could have huge roles, Sprague and Nichols.
I agree, and I don't think Cole Sullivan's a redshirt freshman. Technically, did he play more games
He
last
he
year?
burned the red shirt last year, so he'd
Yeah,
be a
so
true
he'd
sophomore.
be a
Yeah,
sophomore, but I think he's going to have a breakout season too. And the kid loves the game, right? You can just see it. And that linebacker core with him and Rolder in there, along with Hausman and Barham, is going to be as solid as it's been in a long, long time. So, love it. It's hard to believe we have to wait May, June, July, August, 3 months to see it. June, July, August, May, June, 4 months. Boy, it's gonna be a long summer, isn't it?
how many days till August 30th is what
I
I'm
don't
googling
know.
right now. I feel
I
like
don't
this
want
is
to
the
wish the
time.
summer away anymore. You know.
Yeah, Me neither. We're at 123 days until
123 days.
Michigan
And
football.
before you know it, it'll be 23, and then we'll be counting down to kickoff. So some great road trips coming up, though, Clay. I was just thinking about this. Gunther's hosting us for a party at Nebraska, I hear, at their mansion.
That's our
So that'll be
producer,
fun.
Megan.
Our
Yep.
producer, Megan.
For those
Yep.
that
So
don't
that'll
know.
be fun. Oklahoma should be fun. I wanted to ask you this: the toughest road game on the slate, because everybody looks at names and they don't always look at destinations. And I've said it for years that going to the West Coast is so damn hard to win a true road game out there. And for that reason, Southern Cal to me is the toughest road game on the schedule. And I understand Oklahoma's going to be tough, Nebraska's going to be tough, but something about going into that other time zone way out there that really has done it to Michigan football over the years.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this all summer last year, in anticipation for the Washington game. What is it, like one game they've won out there?
Yeah.
They're like at a Pac-12 opponent. Of course, now
In
they're
my
not
lifetime, and that was a fluke. It was an onside kick fluke UCLA win in
UCLA.
1989. Yeah,
Okay.
and J.D. Carlson kicks the game winner after Veda Murray, the late great Veda Murray, recovers an onside kick, and so otherwise they lose that game too. So it is hard. It's hard for anybody to go out there. Remember, Penn State going out there probably should have lost to USC last year. To be honest, if we're being fair, and it was I think it was an overtime game even. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's hard. It is very hard, and so that to me is the one. I am certainly not discounting Oklahoma and Nebraska, as you and I both saw. Unbelievable place to play. The atmosphere there is fantastic. Good people too. They really are knowledgeable fans and are really pretty down to earth. We'll see if that lasts. If Michigan wins a few more in a row here, Penn State used to be that way too. They were really, really nice until they got their ass kicked 9 times in a row, and then they hated your guts. So we'll see how that plays out.
I'll say this about the Nebraska fan. They favor the coaches poll too much. Get in line with the rest of us. The AP poll is where it's at. But
that Tom Osborne, I tell you,
no,
got
but
his retirement gift back in 1997.
Yep, they got lobbied for by
Yep.
Scott Frost. But I think I was.
We're not bitter though.
I was
We're not bitter.
old.
Yeah. Well, I was a little more than that, and I'm still pissed. How's that?
Yeah,
So,
that's right. No,
I got a story about that. I got to tell you. I think it was Corwin Brown who was. It might not have been Corwin Brown. It was somebody else. Yeah, Corwin wasn't on that team. It was somebody from the '97 team. One of the safeties was on a call with Doug Karsh when Doug Karsh was at, I think, WTKA still in Ann Arbor, and he's a radio show host in Ann Arbor. And Scott Frost was on the team with him, and the safety, whoever it was, said, "Hey, oh, by the way, Scott Frost is walking right next to me right now." And Doug's like, "What? Tell him, your lobbying was embarrassing or something like that. Put him on the phone. Put him on the phone." Scott Frost would not get on the phone, but what great radio that would have been in Ann Arbor if Doug Karsh could have gotten a hold of him. Now the play-by-play voice of Michigan football, obviously. So, needless to say, we don't think much of Scott up here. I don't know if they do it in Nebraska anymore either. Gunther?
No, I don't.
Gunther,
think
you want to
so.
get on here and tell us? I'm just kidding. You don't have to get on, but she's
The
shaking
people-
her head. So I'm not going to speak for her. So we'll talk about that on the next show.
The people of Orlando love him, though. He's back down at UCF.
Great.
I'm fascinated to see how that'll go.
It's crazy. Yeah.
But no, that's awesome. And that's a hilarious story. That would have been great radio. Maybe Doug on his show now, which is in Detroit, can get Carol Frost on.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, you have that poll email wise, but would she come on an actual interview with somebody?
I can't imagine now. Maybe 15 years ago when she was all pissed off at us. That was amazing. She sent us, for people who don't know, she sent us, we all made fun of her son in staff predictions before the Alamo Bowl in 2005, I think it was. And it's all in good fun for the most part. It's not anymore. Now we hate his guts, but no, I'm just kidding. But his mom sent us all a nasty email talking about how her Scotty made more in one season than we had in our lifetimes. All of us Wolverines, I think she called them, and it was amazing. I have that, and I will take that to my grave. So actually, I offered an olive branch and said, hey, if she wanted to do lunch, call me, but I have not heard from her yet. 1968 Olympian Carol Frost,
legend.
Yes, legend.
It's so good. If Michigan schedules UCF again, I'm here in the next several years. I'm sure it'll resurface. That was great back in 2016 when you put that out there as well. But okay, we're a little off track. We'll get back on it here with. Actually, I got to answer your question. I think it's probably USC as well. I'm very torn on that because I've thought about it, and I think that the Oklahoma game And this is why last year the big debate was, what's the second toughest game on Michigan's schedule? Is it
Mhm.
Texas or Oregon? And I was on the Texas side of things because of where it was in the schedule. And I think the same could be the case for Oklahoma, because it is week 2. Are you going to be playing a couple quarterbacks? Are you going to go with the true freshman right away? Is Mikey Keene, if he is healthy, ready to go in an environment like that? He's played in some big environments in his career, but not, maybe as a team that's expected to go in and win. So those things scare me a little bit about that game. But at the same time, I do think going out west against a USC team that could be improved. I mean, they're recruiting better. We'll see if it pays dividends right away.
Yep.
Could be a little
They'll
tough.
have athletes. They'll have a lot of athletes. There'll be a lot of Michigan fans there, but it's still a road game on the coast.
Here's the difference. I believe the Oklahoma game is going to be on the ESPN family of networks, which means night game is very likely, I would think. And if it is USC, if Fox picks that one up, which I imagine Michigan at USC they may, it's probably going to be your big noon kickoff. Although you got the NBC and CBS slots now, but that could be tougher just playing at night in Norman. But
a big noon kickoff would be what, 9 a.m.
9 a.m. There's it'd probably have
I
to
don't
be,
think that's. I don't think that's.
It'd probably have to be 3:30.
Exactly.
Yeah, they did it, didn't they? Do a 9 a.m. game last year, or they've talked about the possibility of doing that. That'd be insane.
Michigan would never allow that. So
yeah, that'd be terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move on and talk about Bryce Underwood on the cover of the 2025 Michigan Football Preview magazine, which you can pre-order right now. We got the glossy 160-page Michigan Football Preview. It will be the 37th year of publication. On 3 subscribers of the Wolverine.com, you get an even greater deal there. So go to bit.ly/UM-show, and that is all in the description of the podcast here and the YouTube video to get your deal. And there will be an option there. If you're a subscriber of the Wolverine and on 3, you will have your own special link within the link that we just shared. A little inception there to get your even bigger savings. But pre-order before June 6th right now. And I got some trivia for you, CB.
Yes.
There have been only a few 2-time cover athletes. I think Bryce Underwood has a chance to be a 2 or 3-time Michigan Football Preview cover athlete since 1997, since it became a glossy football preview magazine. Can you try to name as many of them as you can?
How many are there?
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How
about Braylon Edwards? He might not be.
I don't think so. It was just 4.
Okay. Mike Hart?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Mike Hart. I'll give you another one because Mike Hart and Chad Henne were on one together, and
that's
then they
each
were on one individually.
Yeah, I was going to say Chad next, so that's a couple. Denard Robinson.
Yes, Denard Robinson, 2011, 2012.
He probably could have been on there every year because it was all they had. Right. So let's see then. Jim Harbaugh?
Just 2015 when he took over.
That's interesting. Okay. Let me guess one more. I'll guess one more and then we'll move on here.
Yep.
Not McCarthy.
Never was on there.
No. I don't know. Who was it?
Devin Gardner, 2013, 2014.
Okay.
And then Rashawn Gary was on it by himself in 2017, and then along with Chase Winovich, a duo.
Oh, yeah. Dynamic duo.
So, yes.
Yep.
Dynamic duo. Exactly.
Yep.
So I think Bryce has a chance, but it's an awesome looking cover. They always are. They look different every year. So, and we've already had some subscribers, show us pictures or whatever. They got all of them since 19, whatever. And it's awesome. So they're a great keepsake. Get one for yourself, get one for a friend, and get one to maybe store away in the archive. So get 3. And that link is in the description of the video and the podcast here. Real quick before we get to basketball, we got a sad story. It's funny. It's way more sad if Shedeur Sanders gets prank called than Mason Graham. But nonetheless, Mason Graham gets prank called after he got picked by the Browns. Ohio State fans call him. And the video's out there. We're not going to share the audio because it's explicit. But a Browns fan says, "This is Kevin Stefanski with the Cleveland Browns. You want to be a Brown buddy?" And Mason Graham, who had already been called by the Browns but thought, maybe they're following up or something, Says, yes, sir. And they said, all right, bring your ass, dumb F. No chance, bro. Go Bucks. You SE effing clown. You're a clown. That is a guy who's never lost to Ohio State, is apparently the clown, CB.
That pretty much speaks volumes about that fan base. I hate to say it, but man, everybody's like, oh, they have all got their share. Ohio State fans are flat out batshit crazy when it comes to this stuff. You guys need to get a life. And Mason Graham owns you. Mason Graham is your daddy. All right. And you should show a little bit more respect to your daddy. How's that? So Mason Graham's going to kill it there. I'm sorry that he has to play in that shithole state for however long he does. I'm
He's
sorry.
undefeated there.
He's undefeated there. All he knows is winning there. And, but hey, I know he's going to go there and give it everything he has because that's who he is. And unfortunately, it just happens to be in Ohio.
Him and Myles Garrett together is going to be, like he's going to open
have a great career.
Garrett. Yeah,
he's going to have a great career.
It's going to work both ways with those two. I'm sure Myles Garrett is happy that he's there to free him up and vice versa. So yeah, I mean, and he's not the only one. 10 or 12 guys were prank called during the draft. Kind of a weird thing. I mean, it's like, I understand it. Like, it's kind of funny in a way, but not. If you're an Ohio State fan, call somebody else that you beat. You beat plenty of teams last year.
Don't call your daddy. Never call your daddy. You're going to get punished.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Let's talk a little Michigan basketball and get out of here. The opponent breakdown for the 2025-2026 season is out for the Big Ten schedule. We'll go through it here. This is home. You got your 3 double play opponents because there are 18 teams now. You play 20 games. You have your home only and your away only. We'll start with the home only. Indiana, Minnesota, Nebraska, Rutgers, UCLA, USC, and Wisconsin. The away only games are Illinois, Iowa, Maryland, Northwestern, Oregon, Purdue, and Washington. And the double play opponents are Michigan State, Ohio State, and Penn State. Feels like an old Big Ten East football schedule there with those teams. But I guess first, Jake Diebler came to Dusty May last summer and said, hey, you want to do a home and home every year? And Dusty said, sure, makes sense. Less travel.
Love to beat you. Love to beat you twice.
Right. He's 1-0. He's 1-0.
Yeah.
And he, it makes sense with you may not have to go out to, somewhere a little bit further away. It's an easier trip and all that. Your thoughts on that one being added in? Because now Michigan's got 2 of those that seem like they're going to be permanent here with Michigan State.
Yeah. And boy, it's tough because they're both rivalries, right? And it's tough it's kind of like when Ohio State's a protected game in football, right? And you're like, wow, wouldn't you rather be Purdue and have your Indiana game protected, or Indiana and have your Purdue game protected, or something like that, or Michigan State with the old bucket spittoon thing, spit receptacle. Yeah. So it's a little bit tougher, but you know what? I like it because it's still kind of the game, even though it's not football. It's always fun to beat those guys. And I'm looking at the away schedule though, man, that's pretty tough, right? At Oregon, at Purdue, at Maryland, at Northwestern is no cakewalk. So at Iowa, they're gonna have a new coach, but still tough place to play. And at Illinois, so gonna be very interesting. But to me, Dusty May will embrace it. And it's they're going to have some of these years they're going to be in your favor, and some of these years they aren't. This looks like a tougher schedule than I think a lot of other Big Ten schools are going to have. Yeah,
and I wanted to mention that you knew this already. They're going out to Oregon and Washington. It's going to be every other year. Last year they went to USC and UCLA, and really got a little bit lucky with the timing of those games because that road trip is in LA. You stay in the same hotel. Like everyone does out there when they do those 2 games. But Michigan's was over Christmas break. They got there like a week early, practice out there, got acclimated to the timing and everything. You're probably not going to get that luck again next year. And you do have to go, like if you start in Oregon, then you play Washington 3 days later, that's still another flight. So it is a little bit more difficult than what they faced last season in that regard. But, you go down and you read some of these different draws for the different teams. Purdue, they seem to always get a good draw, but listen to this one from Purdue, and I have it here. I do have it here. Home games only. Illinois, Michigan, Michigan State, Oregon, and they have some others, but I mean that's pretty nice there.
Mhm.
Your two play opponents are Indiana, Iowa, Wisconsin. I'd say that's a pretty solid draw. I mean, you do have to
Mhm.
go to Indiana, you do have to go to Wisconsin there, and then away only Maryland, Nebraska, Northwestern, Ohio State, Rutgers, USC, UCLA. That's a good draw, and they've stacked a lot of talent, both from returning guys and in the portal. If Yaxel Lendeborg comes to Michigan, I'll probably say Michigan's a Big Ten favorite, but if not, I would probably hand it to Purdue as of right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Michigan State will probably be better than expected. They, depending on how some of their transfers, I guess, coming in play. Holloman's on the way out, so um, fascinating how the Big Ten, these teams are they just the way they. It's 1 year deals now, right? For the most part,
Yeah.
except for Purdue. Purdue is generally one of those teams that holds on to a lot of their guys and wins with their homegrown guys. So, and I have a lot of respect for Matt Painter and his program, but I really hope Yaxel Lundeborg comes, Clay. I'm not optimistic about it. We were told we were trying to get him for an interview, and we were told he's not doing interviews right now with collegiate writers just because he wants to see what happens with the NBA, which is understandable. But to me, kind of an indication of where his mind is, which frankly he has told us he wants to be in the NBA. So, not rooting against him, Clay. I can't say as I'm really rooting gung ho for him at the at the NBA combines and stuff like that, just because I'm selfish and I'd love to see him in a University of Michigan uniform.
I'll say this about that with the interview thing. Um, a lot of these guys, when they're going through the process, that's pretty status quo. Like the agent doesn't want them really anyone doing interviews. I was talking to a dad of a guy last year who was going to the NFL draft, and he said, "Yeah, I can't go on record with anything we signed with the agent that no one from our camp would talk at all because they
Mhm.
just don't want to mess with that process." I think the agent wants him to think, wants everyone to think that he's all in towards going to the NBA. And that's probably how he should
I
be
agree. Yep.
going in because you don't want to have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Some guys do, and that's fine. You get feedback and all that. But if you have a chance to be a first round pick, like go all in, do everything you can at the combine, and then you have a good fallback. The fact that he changed his profile picture to the Wolverine, like the comic, hero,
Mhm.
and he was posting all those pictures and retweeting everything about his visit, can't hurt.
Nope.
He's definitely excited about the possibility of playing at Michigan. We've heard that over and over and over
Yep.
throughout this process. So
Yeah, it'd be fun,
we'll
wouldn't it?
see.
Man,
It
let's
would be.
go. There's nothing like cover. I mean, I loved covering. There is something like covering the NCAA tournament. It's covering the college football playoff, right? The Rose Bowl. There'll never be anything like it. But covering Final Fours and deep runs into the NCAA tournament with a coach that you're behind, Dusty May, is elite. In my opinion, John Beeline was the best ever. So there's something about covering a team and a coach that you really believe in that is a lot of fun.
There might be something better that is the playoff, but this is different. Like when you go on a run in basketball,
Yeah.
there's something. It's not better, but it is, and it could be better if you win the whole thing, I guess, and then you don't win it and you're covering the playoff. But as John Beeline used to say, food tastes better when you're on a run.
That's right.
That's the case for CFP and NCAA tournament. And Michigan is one of those few schools out there that has just throughout history been able to produce in both sports. Florida's one of them. It's funny, like the Beeline years kind of really helped some down years in
Mm,
football. And then, the last couple of years in football really helped some down years in
yeah.
basketball, but they have the capability to be good at both at the same time. You were in
Yep.
school during one of those eras.
It was
And
amazing.
yeah,
Unbelievable. Yeah. First year they win the national championship and win the Rose Bowl. And I'm like,
it's
that's all we do is win. So it was fun.
That's awesome. Okay, so yeah, that's the schedule for Michigan. We'll get the dates on that in probably a few months. Maybe, yeah, I assume August or September. So we'll break that down as we go. But that's our show for today. Again, remember to head to bit.ly/um-show, or just click the link, way easier, in the description, or the WolverineOnDemand.com to pre-order your Michigan football preview magazine, 160 pages, exclusive interviews, features, columns, breakdowns of everything, opponents, and the Michigan team position by position. You can get your copy now. Make sure to pre-order yours, and we will see everyone next time.